Howdy, welcome back to the shop. Hey, today I'm making a little old project. These are magnetic pickup sensors from a Generac generator. And this is an MPU that I have never seen before. This is a 12 by 1.75 thread pitch. And it takes, its resistance is really low. It's like 100 and some ohms. So it's not going to put out much voltage if I'm thinking right. I am switching an old C-panel machine over to deep sea controls. Might do a video on that as well. Anywho, I've taken this, being I'm gutting and punting on this thing, I've taken this mag pickup and I've put a standard, forgive me, Deutsch, one of those connectors on this old MPU, and I'm going to try this. I made my harness up with the other side of this douche connector, and this is a standard Generac mag pickup. Everybody keeps a couple of these in the truck, a couple on the shelf. You're not a generator guy unless you got these on your truck. But anyway, this thing has a 3/8 24 pitch thread on the end of it. So I've got to make an adapter to go from 12 millimeters to 3/8, 12 millimeter coarse to 3/8 fine. And you can kind of tell by looking there, it's not going to leave a whole lot of meat. So my first attempt of this, I found some bolts in the scrap bin, and I used the appropriate sized drill bit, and I held this in a 3-jaw chuck similar to this, with the head of the bolt on the outside and a nut on the inside, still under the chuck jaws, but something like that. And it drilled fine. When I was drilling, I did notice there was a hard spot down here on the end of the threads. So I tapped this by hand so that I could feel everything by hand power in the lathe. So when I tapped it, I got about to there, and it locked up. The tap bound up in this bolt, and it just unscrewed this like a spring and left me with this. The good news is I was able to save the tap. I got the tap back out of there without chipping it. But you can see just how little threads there are in there. So I went to the feed store and I got a piece of this that looks like it was, it doesn't look like it's been post-treated or anything. It's just a piece of 12 millimeter 175 all thread, 4 inches long, 100 millimeters long. So we're going to make one of them adapters. I'll probably cut two pieces. We'll face both ends, look for hard spots, and go from there. We'll do this in a collet chuck. So I'll go over to bandsaw and I'll get a couple of pieces cut out of this, and we shall return. Okay, so I found the appropriate size collet chuck. It is 15/32, and that is a good fit for this 12 millimeter stock. Now, one of the things that I've discovered when working with these little ER32 collets is if you hold short work in here, you probably ought to come on through the back side and put something in there on the back side the same diameter, so that as this squeezes down on this taper and this taper up here in the nut, it squeezes that collet evenly. If you don't have anything back here, it's going to squeeze this down more than this, and then you'll end up with a cone on the inside here, and then your part is going to run in there all whopper-jawed and side-goggled. So that's what I did with that, and that's kind of my little technique for holding short work in a long collet, is to put a backer piece in there. Now, that's just how I do it. Another thing I like to do when I'm cutting bolts and stuff off like this is I like to file where when you face it and then chamfer it, you always roll over a little wire into your threads. So I like to go to my first full thread and start filing, and then work my way backward, file, 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 all the way back down to where I get all of that wire off of there. And that makes that bolt start so much easier in the hole. And in my eyes, it works better than just taking a die and putting a die on there and then running the die or even a nut back off of it and just obliterating or kind of rolling that back over. This way you don't end up with no little sharp edges and microscopic slivers in the ends of your fingers. So we're going to put this back in the collet chuck, and I'm going to do some drilling. I'll come in here and I'll center, and then I'll run a small drill bit and then the appropriate tap size back through there. So, of course, the camera's having a hard time finding that, but you can see down in there I've got that drilled with a Q Quebec drill bit and ready for tapping. And you can see down in there that's kind of like a communist diet, and there's just not a whole lot of meat. So I've got my this is a 3-flute gun tap, 3H24 3-flute gun tap, and I've got it in one of my Lyle tap sockets, which I did a video on. Everybody needs a set of these. And then one of them cheap drive adapters. This is a 1/4-inch hex shank drive adapter, just held in the chuck here. And this works pretty good. You know, it's going to hold you concentric more or less, but it gives a little bit of wiggle wobble here on the ends so that you can get her started. I like it anyway. Let me back the camera up and we'll do some tapping. So I think I'm going to mark this one down as a win for the home team. Everything actually worked. So I got to get my collet cleaned back up. One of the things that you got to do when you're using these little collets, these things have got to be absolutely clean enough to stick in your eye before you go tightening them up. Because if there's anything on there, I don't care if it's a grasshopper's eyelash, it'll throw these out of, they'll start running all whopper-jawed on you. So here's my 3H24 MPU. I would call that a successful thread. Now, foolishly, I did not measure when I was in the field how deep or how long this insert needs to be. So probably what I'm going to end up having to do is, while I am in the field, I will probably have to cut this insert or snap it off to make it short enough to where I don't want it protruding past the surface of the casting. This screws down into an iron casting, but I don't want it to protrude past the surface of the casting, and I don't want it to protrude much into the casting. Bad things will happen if this falls off or cracks off or whatever. And I am going to put copious amounts of thread locker on the outside of this. So, thank you for joining me out here in my greasy, filthy shop. And I think I'm going to have to buy my wife some new bath towels. I don't think I can sneak this one back into the house. So, y'all have a good day. Y'all drive safe. Watch for deer.